Hey guys, my name is Jeff Flagg. I'm the Director of Training and Education here at PurMotion, and I'm here to talk to you a little bit about the AirFit PRO and the different variations and exercises that you can do on it. Okay, first off, now we'll talk about the components of your AirFit and then how to attach it. So when you get it, it should come to you already put together like this, and we'll break it down. We have an adjustable strap, and what that does is allows you to attach it to a pull-up bar, a tree, a fence, any kind of sturdy, object. And then from down from there, you go down to your spring, to your pulley, to your climbing grade rope, and down to the ultra slings. And we'll get into the benefits of the pulley and the slings a little later. First off, I will show you how to post it on a basic pull-up bar. First thing you're gonna need to do is take the pulley off of the spring, and we'll just put that down here for now. And then, simple enough, all you're gonna do is drape the strap with the spring over the bar and then tuck it through the loop on the other end, like so. Pull it tight and then adjust the height as needed, depending on the height of your anchor point. Clip your pulley back on and you're good to go. Okay, before we get into the different pushing exercises, I want to go over a couple things just to be aware of before you start performing these exercises. One, when you grab the straps, you want to try to position them on the bottom part of the hand. And what that's going to do, that's going to create a straight or a semi-neutral wrist angle. So when I'm pushing and I'm here and that force is going straight, and it's keeping my wrist straight. I don't want to get it, if I get it out in my fingers, it's going to really put a lot of extension on that wrist, and it's really, over time, it's going to hurt. So that's key number one. Number two, as we're pressing, we're gonna position our hands right beneath our shoulders, maybe a little wider, but we don't want to be out here, and we don't want to let our elbows flare out as we would in a traditional bench press or things like that. We want to be conscious of the shoulders a little bit and keeping those elbows. They don't have to be tight to your sides, but about 45 degrees, just to take a little stress off that shoulder. Okay, now we'll show a couple of the pushing movements and variations that you can do with your AirFit. First things first, I want you to start in a kind of a taller standing stance, just to, for the most part, just to get used to the pulley. The pulley's a little different than what everybody's kind of used to, so I want you to get used to the pulley, and then once you get more comfortable with it and you're able to knock out more reps, then you're gonna walk your feet back and make it harder, with your body parallel to the ground. That's gonna be the hardest. That's gonna be your whole body weight. So first, we have our 2-arm push-up, where we're gonna have our feet wide and our body straight. Our knees are slightly bent, our hips are slightly bent. I'm soft, and then my hands are right underneath my shoulders. The slings were designed to be right there on your arms, coming down right by your triceps. So when you're doing your push-up, it won't rub you raw. And the key here is your body's at these angles, but I want to be pushing along the angle that my body is, orientated to the ground. I don't want to be pushing in relation to the ground here. I want to be pushing along my body line, keeping my back and my neck straight. That's a 2-arm push-up. Variation of that will be a 1-arm, where we're same setup. We're on the balls of our feet, and then I'm just going 1 arm at a time. And then our most advanced variation is what we call the MMA push-up, or it's more of a push-up with rotation. So the setup is going to be the same here, and then with both my arms slightly bent, as I flex one arm, I'm going to turn my shoulders, my torso, and my hips right in place, keeping my head at, staring at a point right in the ground, and then pushing back with my left arm. That sling is going to come right down next to your triceps, and then you alternate on the other side. That's just incorporating a little more rotation, a little more coordination with your hips and your lower body and upper body. And that's basically our 3 push variations with the AirFit. Okay, now we're going to go into a couple pulling variations. To start, you can either grab the slings, by themselves, or you can kind of choke them around your wrist and then grab to help out, because your grip may get a little tired. Or, which I think is a better option, they're sold separately, but if you get a pair of basic handles, you can clip onto the carabiners like so, and they help with the grip a little bit, just a little easier. And if you're going a circuit type workout, you can bounce from a push to a pull pretty easy. I found that that's a pretty good way to do things. But we'll go, just know that you can, one of 2 ways that you can grab and do the pulling exercises. First off, we're going to go our basic 2-arm row, where we're going to lean back. My whole foot is going to be on the ground. We're not going to lock out our joints like this. We're going to keep our knees soft, feet fully on the ground, arms extended, palms facing down. All right, and then when you pull, you're going to rotate your palms till they face each other. All right, and I don't want to come up here, using a lot of my upper back and my neck and things like that. I don't want to use those big back muscles, and my hands are going to be below chest level. And I'm going to keep tension on the system the whole time. I don't want to bounce like that. All right, so that's our 2-arm row. A variation of that is our 1-arm row, where it's the same setup here, and then I'm just pulling 1 arm at a time. Like that. And just like the pushing, if I'm up here, it's easy. And right down here, more of my body weight gets harder. And that's how to make the exercise more difficult. And our third variation is what we call a lateral pull. All right, so what we're going to do here is I'm going to stand with the anchor point where the AirFit is anchored to my side. All right, I'm going to be in a lunge stance. My inside leg is going to be forward. So in this case, my right leg is going to be forward. I'm going to be pulling with my left arm. All right, so I'm going to lean away from it, be in a wide lunge stance. My hips and everything are facing sideways to the anchor point. I'm going to keep my head on the pulley, and I'm going to pull across my chest, almost like a bow and arrow. Here. Letting my hand kind of naturally rotate. Let it rotate. Don't fight it. And keeping the other arm extended. So those are our 3 basic pulling variations with the AirFit. Okay, now here I'm going to show you some of our core exercises and variations. First off, we're going to start with just a typical plank. But instead, instead of doing it on the ground, we're going to do it with our AirFit. The setup position is you're going to get your arms into the slings about 1 inch or so from the end of your elbow. Okay, right about there. And then once you set up, those slings should be coming down right on the front, tops of your shoulders, right on the sides of your neck. So your elbows are right directly beneath your shoulders. And then from here, I want you to start from the ground, and then I want you to prop yourself up, boom, into a plank position. And from here, you can hold it for any amount of time. And to make it easier, you can walk yourself up, maintaining that flat angle. The more you walk yourself up, the easier it is. The further you walk yourself back, the harder it will be. And then you can hold it for, like I said, however amount of time. So that's our basic plank. Okay, now we're going to move on to our what we call a reverse sit-up exercise. Now, the setup is going to be the same as the plank. We're going to get in our slings here. Arm, right there by my neck. And get up in this plank position. We're going to have our feet wide, and from here, what we're going to do, we're going to lift our hips, and we're going to, kind of tuck our head and our shoulders between our legs. It's gonna look a little something like this. Stand on the balls of your feet and be careful on the way out to not sway back at the bottom. We want to go as deep as that plank position, and we don't want to overextend our spine. And build up, start at a plank and then build up with the little more dynamic reverse sit-up. Okay, now we're going to move on to what we call a plank with rotation, or we like to call in the building a whack-a-mole, like the old arcade game. But here, the setup is going to be the exact same as previous. We're going to get into slings, keep our shoulders tight, elbows underneath our shoulders, pop up into the plank position, and from here, all I'm focused on is dropping my elbows up and down. Here, my torso is going to rotate a little bit, and what I'm doing here is, the range of motion is not very far, so I don't want to get too crazy and be out here or be in here. I want to keep my arms at 90 degrees and keep my elbows right beneath my shoulders as I perform the movement. And just like the other things, the pushing and the pulling and things, to make it a little easier, you can walk your feet up, maintain a straight body angle, and complete the movement that way. So that's what we call our whack-a-mole. Okay, our next core exercise is what we call the headlock. Here, the setup is going to be a little bit different. To start, we're going to have both slings together, and they're going to be on one arm at a time. So the positioning is the same, about an inch from the end of your elbow. And then the slings are come on the back side of your neck. All right, so if it's on my right arm, I'm going to have my left foot forward. And when I get set up, I'm going to be in like a split, like a wide lunge stance, facing the direction that my arm is facing. Okay, so I'm going to get up and be here like this. And then from here, basically the move is lifting my hips and I'm tucking my elbow kind of into my rib cage. Kind of like I got somebody in a headlock. This other hand is on the wrist to support. And the key here is to make sure that it's a side crunch action. The tendency is to go forward, but we want to try to take that elbow right to the rib cage and get those obliques and get the side crunch action with that one. And that's what we call the headlock. Okay, now I'm going to show you what we call the witch's brew. It's basically a little different variation of our reverse sit-up. What we're going to do, so, if you haven't got it by now, same setup with all the core stuff. Slings by my neck. I'm going to pop up into that plank position. And then once I get here, instead of the reverse sit-up, where I go straight out, straight back, here I'm going to incorporate a little bit of a circle. Go out, circle around, come back in. I want to start with small circles, and then as I get more comfortable with it, progressively make them bigger. There, and then, at the widest point, my feet are wide, solid base, and I don't want to make the circle any wider than my feet during this exercise, this movement. So that's what we call our witch's brew. Okay, now I'll show you a couple lower body moves that you can do with the AirFit. First off, we can do just a regular basic squat. Now what you're going to do is grab the slings, whether just in a normal grip or kind of a choker grip, and you're going to create that angle, leaning backwards a little bit. And you can alter the footprint. You can go hip width, you can go a little wider with your toes out, or you can kind of go like a sumo stance with my knees out and my toes out, which will kind of hit three different areas. And the keys here, just keeping your arms straight, leaning back, and you want to keep that chest up as you squat down and you kind of pressing back. You want to keep tension on the system the whole time. If I'm not leaning back enough and I go too much straight up and down, I'm going to get a little slack. But I want to keep leaning back, keep it tight. and do, you know, those 3 different footprint variations of a squat. Okay, now if the 2-leg squats become too easy and you're knocking out, you know, 50, 100 at a time, now we're going to go 1-leg squats, make it a little tougher. All right, the key here is whatever leg you want to start off with, make sure it's right in line with either the pulley or the anchor point where your AirFit is anchored. That's going to keep you balanced and centered. And on here, you want to kind of slightly turn it in a little bit, so all 5 toes are touching the ground. You know, if I'm straight on, it's going to be hard to keep my balance. I'm going to torque that knee a little bit. So I'm going to turn my foot slightly in, and then from here I'm going to drop down, and as I drop down, my other leg is going to tuck behind as I drop my hips, keeping my chest up, and then same, keeping tension on the system, kind of pressing backwards. And then you can repeat, you know, with the other side. And that's what we call our 1-leg squat. Okay, those are some of the basic applications that you can use your AirFit Pro for, you know, some total body exercises. You know, master those, and then stay tuned to our Facebook page, our YouTube channel, you know, our website PurMotion.net, and our Twitter account. We're always putting new content and things like that up there, showing different applications. So, you know, stay tuned for that. And until then, you know, enjoy your AirFit.